What's up, guys? I'm going to do a quick follow-up on the practice peak that I did last Saturday, Friday and Saturday. Had several requests to kind of go over what I did, why, and what the result was, and how things were tracked throughout it. So, first off, Friday was fat loading. It wasn't anything super aggressive. Many of you have been following the prep. My fats are super low. It's just trace fats. It's essentially about 10 grams a day, so hardly anything. So one of the goals there was to load and get some intramuscular triglycerides loaded, because that will also help with the that cosmetic effect, the appearance of fullness. I do well loading fats typically, so knowing that and knowing that I'd been so low on fats, it was just kind of a no-brainer that load some of those beforehand and enhance the total fullness effect. So that's what we did Friday. It was 70 grams. So like I said, not anything super crazy. That was, like I said, nothing too over the top. Woke up Saturday morning. It was actually at a new low again. And I would say I looked better, but I was definitely, very, very flat. So that's when the carbs started. So carb total was set at 850. And part of the reason was for that was just trial and error through previous refeeds in the prep. My refeeds had been 2 days long, typically with 450 carbs each day, most of the time. And I was looking best after day one, but not completely full. So the idea was to take close to the total amount of carbs and condense them into 1 day, basically like a rapid carb backloading. So that's what we did there. Also had about 10 years of data basically on previous preps and what had worked and what hadn't. I've done them myself. As some of you know, I'm working with, I picked up working with Jason Theobald later on in my prep. I started prep way back, like beginning of December. We started working together about 10 weeks. I think it's like 10 to 12 weeks out, somewhere right in there. And so we obviously had that information too on those refeeds, plus what I'd already been doing, plus what I'd done with myself in the past, what didn't work, plus what I'd done with Jason in the past too, because we'd worked together, way back, like 2011. So, lots of data there. Found out that was probably the best course of action. So we started with the 850, and then it's checking blood glucose with every single meal. Fasted blood glucose, I think, was like 73, so pretty good. It wasn't really rising at all with the meals. It started to finally rise towards the end of the day. So I think it ended up like highest was like 83 or 85. So I mean, still very, very insulin sensitive even after that amount of carbs. I wasn't with that blood glucose number and the fact that I didn't look completely full yet. We went ahead and added another 100 grams. So the day ended at 950 grams. Took photos at a couple different points during the day, just kind of monitor it. And like I said, blood glucose was checked before every meal. So the meals were about 2.5, 3 hours apart. So enough time for blood glucose to baseline and then check it. The idea there too is that if it hadn't baseline, then we're either have too much circulating glucose and we need, sensitivities going down, partitioning as well, or we're starting to spill over, or, we can back it off or just wait, until it clears and blood glucose goes down, or possibly switch back to fats again if glucose isn't, getting to where it needs to be. So there's a couple different options there depending on what's going on, but depending on how you look. So obviously none of that was an issue. Flew right through everything. I didn't train or do cardio, which is the first day that I hadn't done cardio in I don't even know how long. So it was a little weird, but I posed and stuff just to kind of see how I felt, see if I was pumping up easier, and see how everything was partitioning. And it's definitely pumping up a lot easier. I mean, I was definitely getting really vascular and hard. Pose for 2 or 3 minutes, like go through quarter turns once or twice, go through mandatories once or twice, and I mean, I was pretty much pumped and hard at that point. So it's definitely partitioning really well. So yeah, that's where we ended up on Saturday, 9:50. I probably could have done more, truthfully. Woke up Sunday, was pretty dry, definitely a lot fuller. I think I was up 2.6 pounds or 2.8 pounds total. I think I was probably 80%, big 80 to 90% full at that point, still pretty dry. So one thing I didn't do that I will do on the final week is that I was still having things like, like some artificial sweeteners, a little bit of dairy and stuff like that, which I'll drop all that stuff out too a few days out, and I'll dry out even more, because I do hold a little bit of water from that stuff, enough to where it makes a little bit of a difference. Plus, I think my fiber intake was around 50 to 55 grams with the 950, which is it was not high necessarily. It's about what it would normally be for that amount of calories, but I would probably bring it down a little bit more, and that'd probably make me even drier for the actual show day. So, no veggies, just low fiber carb sources. I really, I know what digests well at this point, so that's not really an issue. But yeah, guys, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of it, is just monitoring the blood glucose, monitoring the look, and planning the amount of carbs is really the big thing. There are some formulas that can potentially be helpful, but things you have to consider too when you're looking at a formula is that a formula might give you a rough idea of how much glycogen you're going to hold and what your saturation point is for your size or your muscle, but that's going to be if you're basically sedentary and not burning through anything. So if you're up moving around and doing stuff and you're burning through stuff, or you have a fast metabolism or whatever, your saturation point is probably going to be higher, or you're going to need more because you're going to burn through some of it. So, you have to consider that. And that's why you can't be afraid to call audibles too, like we did. So added an extra 100 grams of carbs. It pretty much did the trick. One thing to note on that is I was pretty much had the day timed out for the 8:50, so the 9:50 ended up being a lot later. My sleep has not been good at all, as far as I just wake up a lot during the night to pee, to just whatever. It's pretty wrecked at this point. But I figured, hey, I'll just wake up and have an extra 100 grams of carbs in the middle of the night, which is essentially what I did, because it ended up being a couple hours, 2-3 hours after my last meal anyhow, so it worked out perfectly. And that could be something that would actually happen in a peaking situation. If somebody needs to wake up in the middle of the night and eat more, depending on how they look and depending on what the plan is. I mean, there's situations where people might have to wake up and eat multiple times in the middle of the night. Obviously we want to get sleep too, but we have to produce the look. So, yeah. Jason and I talked about it. We're happy with the look. I don't think will really change a whole lot. Like I said, a couple of those little things I'll cut out, make me a little bit drier. Didn't use any diuretic. It was just had some Expel, MHP Expel. I have Project AD's H2O Remove, which I'll just keep, for the actual peak, and use that. And that's just fluid. Fluid was high. I should have mentioned that fluid was about 2 gallons. So, I mean, we're moving through it. Probably won't cut that. Maybe just cut it off at night at the end of the carbs. But sodium was high as well. So sodium was about thinking off the top of my head, it was about 1.25 to 1.5 times higher than normal, and it was higher than potassium. So keeping the ratio of sodium a little bit higher than potassium in this case for the loading. Trying to think anything else off the top of my head. That's essentially, I think that covers most of the bases. If you guys have any questions, obviously just feel free to comment. I can clarify anything. I think that covers the gist of it though. So, yep, that is it, guys. For those of you that wanted to follow up, I hope this is helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.